Thank you, everyone, and happy Tuesday. We are doing this fun little printmaking design by the artist known as Lois Mailou Jones. And I just have a couple of interesting facts about her here, kind of what makes her important as an artist. So she's a trailblazing artist. Lois Mailou Jones was a pioneering African-American artist who achieved recognition during a time when racial barriers were significant in the art world. And she led a multifaceted career. Throughout her career, Jones explored various styles and mediums, including painting, printmaking, and textile design, showcasing her versatility and creativity. She was an educator and mentor, and she was not only a talented artist, but a dedicated educator, teaching at prestigious institutions such as Howard University and influencing many aspiring artists through her mentorship. Her work was influenced by her travels and exposure to different cultures, particularly evident in her exploration of African and Caribbean themes, as well as her experiences living and studying in Paris. And her Jones's contributions to African American art and culture were significant as she played a vital role in challenging stereotypes and promoting greater representation and recognition for African American artists in the mainstream art world. So, if you've never heard of her before, we are honoring her today by making a kind of mock sample of one of her particular designs. And to do this little project, you just need some simple watercolors, of course, a cup of water. I have 3 size brushes here to help us today. We have a 1/4 inch round brush, a 1/4 inch square flat brush, and a thin liner brush to help us create this picture. Of course, a pencil, and I have some watercolor cardstock here and some Copic markers. They're a little bit more finer than a standard, say, Crayola marker, a little bit more expensive. They are alcohol-based. You can find affordable versions. But if you have pink, black, and blue of any style marker, you're welcome to use those. And of course, anytime you use a cup of water, you want to have some paper towels handy. So we're going to get started with our sketch of the inspiration here. And if you have a ruler, feel free to use it, or just a kind of straight edged paper. I have a straight edge cardstock to kind of help me make a straight line. So don't think of it as cheating. You definitely want to use tools that kind of help you when creating a piece of art. So I have my sample cardstock here. I'm going to start off with our sketch, creating about 2 inches, or the width of the 2 tops of my fingers. I'm going to draw a line on both sides. So about 2 inches from the top. I'm going to place a dot 2 inches from the top on each corner. And then I'm going to use a straight edge to connect the dots. So about 2 inches. And I'm going to place my dot and make a line straight across for the top part of our design. And then just using the straight edge of my paper or a ruler, I'm just going to draw a straight line across. So that is this first step, this straight line. So we're kind of making a frame around our central picture. So about the same width again, we're going to repeat at the bottom. So about 2 inches from the top, I'm going to use my finger to gauge and draw a line. So 2 inches from the bottom. I have 2 dots here, and using my straight edge to go straight across. Again, if you have a ruler, about 2 inches should do the trick. So now when we create this kind of column here and here, we're going to go about the same distance, but we're not going to go all the way through our page. We're just going to go from our line to line. So again, I'm going to measure about 2 inches now going this way. So I'm going to create a dot where I see about 2 inches, and about here to my knuckle, 2 inches. And again, using my paper to create a little bit of a straight line. And almost done with the other side. Again, about 2 inches, placing 2 dots, then using a straight edge to connect. like so. So now is the time to see that all the widths around the main center of the square are pretty even. So according to our inspiration, we're looking pretty good. Now to get started with our sketching, we're going to focus on the outer edge, and then we'll focus on a little bit of the harder part, which would be this profile that we have here. So to get started, we'll start with this blue and pinkish purple color. And the way we create this pattern is simply creating the letter X. So instead of attempting to draw these perfect squares, I'm just going to attempt to draw a nice and neat X. And I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. Start at the top corner and come down to this line, and then just keep repeating the X. So we come down further out about an inch, and then from this point, I'm just creating a big X. And then we come down. There's about an inch between here, and same, about an inch between there. And then just finish off like so. And then we see that some areas may look a little less square, so we can just take our time to adjust the angle. Don't feel bad if it's not perfect. That's what they make erasers for. And you can just sit and judge to see, making sure that each center point resembles that of a square. So this one's going to be just a little bit more to the left. Just some short strokes and just kind of editing. And don't worry if it's not super perfect. When we draw this bolder line, we're going to be able to correct any kind of shape discrepancy. So you try to get it to a square as best as you can. And then for this next area, we're going to have a little bit more of a pattern. And the way that this pattern looks is it almost looks like the shape of a D. So if you turn it this way, it's a little bit easier to create this design. So we're going to take our paper and just kind of copy this shape. So once you've created the first shape is almost like making a curved kind of square. So we make an L shape, and then it's like you kind of come down and curve when you make a letter D. So I'm just going to give some space from the left, about a quarter of an inch, and with some soft strokes, I'm going to make an L. And then I'm just going to act like I'm writing a letter D, but just connect it to the bottom corner. And then the next shape to it is just mimicking the same curve and then finishing off with another angle. So I'm going to step away from this design a little bit and give it a parallel kind of shape, and then just create an L. She did live a long life. She did good observation. Gerard, you're always in the know. I love that. Mailou lived a very long artistic career as well. And so we're going to repeat this shape. So we're going to copy this one and go reverse. So we're making a mirror kind of shape. And now we'll go backwards. And then create a little bit of a right angle here. And follow the curve now going this way. And straighten out any line. If you need to erase, feel free to erase. And we want to continue this pattern. So now I'm going to create a mirror image of this D again. So we have an L, trying to keep it the same width as the other ones. And with a short stroke, we just come down, almost making a letter D. And then parallel line. Just like so. And then we finish off with another D. And you can continue the pattern. Reverse. Just like so. So you just want a repeating pattern in there. Perfect. Now for this next area of design, this one's a little bit more simpler. We start off with a straight line. So we'll go back to our left section. And we softly want to sketch a straight line evenly on both sides. You want to kind of split it in the middle, but you don't want to go all the way to the top and you don't want to go all the way to the bottom. And now we're going to build our little leaves, starting from smallest to biggest. And it's very easy to do so. You just have to know how to do a circle. And we just almost are making a heart shape going back and forth. So we're just rounding out, making an oblong kind of shape and crisscrossing. So oval, rounded oval, but it almost looks like a heart. So if you know how to make a heart, this shape should come easy to you. So now it's creating like a curve of a heart. And as you move down, you make it bigger. So we have this little rounded heart to start. And now we come around and it's almost like we're kind of cascading down the ladder and creating this arch shape, this heart shape coming down and getting bigger as we get towards the bottom. And I'm just going over it a little just to create a better idea for size. And just softly erasing the lines so that the bottom ones look a little bigger. And then last but not least, the bottom right in the middle gets the letter B. Try your best to draw a good letter B. And then again, with an edge, you can kind of cheat to create the same angle. So it's kind of the same angle as this. And you want to give it about 1/2 inch across the whole bottom picture. So we have a V in the center. And as we go, I'm just moving the paper over about 1/2 inch and keeping the angle the same all the way through. And again, this can be done with a ruler. Don't have to be too fancy with it. And again, with the other side, about the same size, same angle as the V. And now we're creating a straight line with about 1/2 inch gap in between, same angle as the V. And I'm just pulling my paper out to the size that I want and drawing my line. And then now we're going to get to this center part. So once this is done, we can finish our center part of the drawing. And this kind of represents a lot of the printmaking style that Mailou Jones was known for. And then we have this edge in blue here. That is just repeated triangles kind of getting a little bit larger. So I'm going to turn it to the side and create some triangles. And as you can see, the starting space of my second triangle is on the edge of the first one. So on the edge of the triangle, that's my starting point, edge of the triangle. And I'm just making basically a letter L upside down to create this. And we have our triangle design all the way on the left. And then last but not least, I have this profile created here and the eye. So the starting point for the profile is going to be at the center. So we kind of gauge the center of the picture. And then the end point is going to be a little bit left to that. So I'm going to have the center, and then the ending point is a little bit to the left of that. And then I'm just going to go and create a little curved line as best as I can. And there's a roundedness like right in this area. And I'm moving with some short strokes. I'm not trying to do it in one big long stroke. I'm really trying to sketch it, and then it comes in just a bit. So it's like almost like a parenthesis curve. And then about, I would say 2.5 inches down, then it starts to slope back out to the nose. And the nose comes out and then curves. And then we have a rounded lip here. And then we come under the lip to create a soft chin, which is like an open U. And then we work our way back towards this dot, which will be the neck. And this is the example for the profile. If it's not exactly like this, it's okay. You just want to make sure you have a rounded bit for the forehead, a slope for the nose, a little bit roundedness for the nose. So you have a round bit for the nose, 2 round bits for the lips, and then kind of scooped under for the chin and the neckline. And then just where the end of the nose, the bridge of the nose starts, that's where you want to kind of pull up and put a dot, because that's going to be the starting point of how they design the eye. So just follow that bridge of the nose and then jump about 1/2 inch right off of that bridge. So you want to put a dot there. That's going to be the starting point of the eye design. So we're going up the bridge of the nose, and then right there is going to be the starting point, about 1/4 inch from that bridge. And then you just try to get this angle straight. And that's about a 2-inch angle. We move the angle straight. And then we do a nice curve under, and then a little curve out to kind of mimic an eyelash, just like so. And then fill it in with an eye. And there you have the printmaking design. So it's a lot of pattern work, a lot of sketching, but it's fairly easy designs, just a lot of straight lines. And we're going to go over now these areas with some watercolor and finish it off, making this a mixed media picture with some Copic markers. So go ahead and get yourself your cup of water, your watercolors, and we're going to get started filling in. I want to start with this purple color here that you see at the top, and I'm going to grab my palette out here, and we're going to use this square edge flat brush like so. I'm going to take a couple swipes of this purple color that I have, and you can always test your purple color on a scrap paper. This purple looks good. But I believe I used this one for the picture. So I'm just going to do test. So yeah, so I have this purple here. It's almost like a Barney purple. If you can remember Barney back in the days. And take that square flat brush and just swipe as best you can, as close to the guidelines as you can. And we're going to use this first triangle to fill in and swipe. Get as close to the edge and pull the color. Don't worry too much if you go over the lines. Want to dip in some water again. Jump into this lilac purple. It's a little lighter than a standard purple. But if you only have the darker one, that's just fine. And we'll just come in and follow that one edge and pull it down. Again, we kind of sweep across the edge and pull the color down. Sweep across the edge and pull the color down. And you want to try to keep the pigment pretty even. So I'm just going to come back over these squares and fill in so that they're all a similar pigment, that some are not too washed out and see-through. And if you need more water, just swipe across. I've left a little puddle in this color just to get in a bit. And then there you have that first bunch of colors. Now I'm going to draw, pull my round brush rather, and I'm going to come into this blue area, and I'm going to choose two different blues. I have several shades in my watercolor palette. If you don't have that many shades, that's okay. The less water you make it, the darker the color comes out. But I'm going to use these two shades here. So again, I'm just going to swipe a little tester color here. And I'm going to use a watered down version of this color. So that means I'm going to come off the side of my palette, add some water, dip, just to make it a little lighter by adding more water off to the side. And there we go. I like that color. And then just with the rounded bit, I'm just going to allow the rounded part of the brush to kind of fill in this curve. And start with this lighter color inside this pattern that we drew. And get to as close as the guidelines as you possibly can. And you're almost retracing the edges and filling in. So you almost try to retrace the edges and then pull around for the curve. And retrace the edges and pull around for the curve. And we try to do the lighter color first and then the darker color, if we get outside the lines, will help us clean up the area a little bit. Alrighty, so we have that. So we're going to allow that to dry. And while that's drying, we're going to use the same round brush and get into a nice color green. So again, I have my green here. I'm going to just give a little sample. That looks good. I have a light and dark green mixed here. And I'm just going to start kind of stamping while putting the brush perpendicular. I'm just using the edge to kind of fill in these little rounded hearts that are being kind of created to make this leaf imprint. trying my best to stay within the guideline. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're going to go over it with Copic markers and clean it up a bit. But just standing straight up and down and pulling to let the roundedness get filled in with this heart shape. And so we have that next set of colors. And back to my square brush. We're going to tackle this bottom one, starting with our lighter colors. I have this nice sunny yellow down here and this almost orangey yellow. I'm going to give them both a swipe and give it a test little swipe here, and that looks about what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to just try to use the width of the brush to fill in the line in one good swipe. And get as close to the top line and just pull down, fill the brush again, and pull, fill the brush again, and pull. And just continuing. To fill in the pattern best you can. Okay, and the next color I'm going to use is going to be filling in this background with a similar shade of green to that. We're going to just choose the actual lighter green by itself. We're not going to mix it with anything. And I'm just going to make a whole bunch off to the side. So you're going to see a bunch of this green off to the side. It's a nice lighter lime looking green. And we're going to start filling in the face while the other edges start to dry. And if you feel like you make a mistake or it's bleeding out, you can also take a paper towel, press and release and start over. No worries, no harm, no foul. Get as close to your guideline as you can by using the edge to kind of follow your line, so the edge of the brush is following along with you. And then just using the straight edge of the brush to follow the straight edge of the picture to line it, and then kind of filling it all in. And this is a little bit of a lighter shade. We're going to give it 2 coats. So we're going to let this first coat dry and then revisit it again. Okay, same brush, same square is going to have a little dip in the water. We're going to swipe and tap the bottom of the brush. And now do a couple swipes against this black color that I have. And now we're going to start working our way clockwise again. So I'm going to go into these areas at the top. They should be dry. So I'm just going to use the edge of my brush to stay as close to the guideline as possible and start filling in these top triangles. So I kind of make an L when I'm filling in. Come down, go across, fill. Oh. Come down, go across and fill. Come down. And now we'll come down and try to get as close to the line. And you're almost standing the brush perpendicular to kind of trace out the shape. Like so. So a little tracing and then a little color pulling over. A little tracing. And tracing. And last one. Tracing. Getting as close to the guidelines as possible. And just going over any areas that look like need a little help. And dip in the tub. Back to our little round brush. We're going to take our round brush, make sure it's really clean, tap and swirl in our cup. And we're going to get into a little shade darker. So I'm going to pull this periwinkle kind of blue, do a little test shade. That's perfect. And we're going to take a walk around. So this is standing up on the round brush. So we have our round brush. And just kind of wiggling in between this little path. I'm doing a couple swipes, getting close to either line, like so, then getting in between while holding the brush perpendicular, just getting in between these little spaces. Just pulling that color that's darker through. Back into some blue. And standing this round brush to get in these little round spaces. And then pulling straight up and down on the right side with this darker blue. And then just cleaning up any edges that look like have too much water, not enough pigment. And clean up these edges here. Okay. Next we'll be back to the square brush, a little rinse, like so. I'm tapping it on some paper towel. I want to get a nice pink shade in here. So I got a couple of pink shades. I'm going to go with this rosy pink, do a little swash here. Let's make this rosy pink really wet and opaque. Maybe include a touch of this purple. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. So we got a touch of purple and some rosy pink on. And I'm going to come in here. And then just do swipes. Start at the top and pull across. Start at the top and pull across. Start at the top and pull across. Trying to stay in the line as best as I can. Now for the other side, start at the line, pull across, start at the line, pull across, and there you have the bottom one. Fill in any other missing pieces best you can. Perfect. Same square brush gets a little rinse. And taps it dry. And now we have this pattern here, which is a very dark navy blue. So I'm going to go into this really dark blue, do a little test swatch. That works for me. And I'm just going to get into this corner as best as I can. And just use that square edge of the brush to fill in the space. So keep it flat, pull it over, keep it flat, pull it over. Kind of angle. Best I can. So the reason why we kind of do in these steps and not try to do it one color next to another is we definitely want with the watercolors to give them some time to dry in between. That way when we're placing the next color, it's not bleeding too much against one another. And then last but not least, pick a nice orange shade. So fill this area on the left. I have this nice pumpkin orange. It's gonna do the job for us. I'm gonna add a little more water. And I'm actually gonna use my round brush to help me maneuver around the curves a little more. So we have our round brush. It's going to help us kind of get in and around this little greenery best we can. So the round brush is going to do the trick for us. And we're just going to get as close to this edge as possible. But just having your brush at a like 45-degree angle and just kind of rounding around the edge of the green. And get as close as you can. With the orange. Remember, don't worry too much that it's not perfect because we are going to go over it with some marker. And once you've done that, start to fill in the outside edges with that pumpkin orange. A couple more swipes to refill. And the pumpkin orange. You'll fill in the rest of the border. I'm just going to stand this up perpendicular so I'm not going into the blue. Just like so. Just filling it in. And then once over. Just like so. The same rounded brush is going to give me the eye color in here. So in this eye color, it will be green. So we're just putting that right under where the pupil should be. And then the rest of this area is going to be a black. And again, this is still the rounded brush. I've cleaned now and swiped across the black. And I'm just going to fill in and let the edge get as close to my guided drawing as best I can. And use the rounded edge to fill out the rounded parts here and then pull in a little more water in the black. And pull in. Standing the brush perpendicular to create the lines. And I'm just retracing this border by holding the brush perpendicular to the paper and retracing outside of this border. Pulling the color in. Trying not to leave any white gaps best I can. And just pulling all the color. Okay, so as I get to the eye, try to make it all one shade. So if one area is darker than another, I'm trying to pull pigment towards that area. Swiping and pulling pigment so it all resembles one similar shade. Need some more water here to finish out the bottom half of the face. Using the rounded part of the brush to kind of continue to fill in and add more pigment so it matches the other areas and it doesn't look too splotchy. Using the roundedness to fill in the lip area and the nose area and pulling it back into the painting. And then just pulling any wet areas just to make it one cohesive shade. And then just filling in the pupil. Just like so. And then we are going to give this a second or two to dry. I don't like the lightness of the eye, so I'm just going to add more green in here. And you can take a once over. Again, this is what we've drawn in and we have so far before the Copic markers. This is what we have as our inspiration. So you can kind of see that we could definitely use a little bit of a cleanup with this. And that's going to be done. I have 3 shades that'll help us do that. I have a blue Copic marker, a pink one, and a black one. That's going to get the job for us today. So we're just letting these areas dry a little bit more, and I'm done with the watercolor, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm happy with the pigments, and actually, let me see if I get a little bit more of this center part. A little bit more colored. It's too opaque. Just want to fill it in just a hair more. It's looking gray versus black. There. There we go. And as it dries, sometimes the shade might change. So if you need to make any adjustments or any color corrections, now's the time to do it. Just gonna make sure that this looks kind of all one shade versus many shades. And here we are. Fabulous. So now I can put these watercolors to the side. Just like so. And gonna pull out my Copic marker. The first one I'm going to utilize is the blue one. So while everything else is getting kind of fixed up, this has 2 sides to it. This has a finer point, and then this also has a more rigid point. I'm going to use this one just to help me with a straight line. You can also use a ruler for this also, but I'm just going to just jump right in and just go over our drawn line just to clean up the design a little bit. And I'm just going over every drawn line with a similar color blue marker. Now this isn't exactly how Lois initially created this piece. She used acrylics, but we're just honoring her with our interpretation of mixed media because she did use many kind of mediums for her artwork. And again, just taking this marker just to enhance the straightness of the pattern and lines and to clean up the edges like so. So our blue is done. And then next, we'll give it a little turnaround and we'll work on this part. Again, 2 sides, I'm going to use this side versus the brush looking tip. And I'm just going to reinforce those drawn lines as best I can. You can use your ruler again for this. I'm just going to freehand the shapes here, and the paint that I have in this section is pretty much dry. So if your paper isn't dry yet and you want to layer with any kind of marker, you want to wait till it's completely dry because markers and wet water don't tend to mix pretty well. The color doesn't stay on. Perfect. So that was the chisel side. I'm going to use the brush side for the rounded part. This will get around the curves a little better. So this one's the pointed side, not the chisel side. And I'm going to make my way to lightly trace around these drawn lines that were created. for this greenery. And I'm not putting any kind of full force on this. I'm lightly, very lightly tracing. No full force at all, just letting the very teeny tiny tip do most of the work. And then I'm going to switch over back to my chisel side. That is going to do this part here. Gives me a more exact straight border line. And then using the thick part there. And now the chisel again to bring this line here across the whole picture. Like so, and then retrace. Those, and then the area here, I'm going to use the tip, the paintbrush tip, and we're just going to retrace the profile. Like so. And then we're going to create the eye and the little wisp line as well. So I'm just going to swipe across in a straight line. And then I'm going to sweep under and create a shape there. Just like so. And then last but not least, with any picture that we create, just go ahead and double check if you think that you're done and you've finished all the pieces. All you have to do is check your inspiration, see if it looks good, check it with the original. Ta-da, we're done. And you just sign your work of art so that you are officially an artist. So thank you guys so, oh, sorry, for the pink. You can also retrace inside the pink here just to give it that little shadow layer. Just like so. There we are. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for joining me and learning a little bit more about Lois Mailou Jones. I hope that you enjoyed this design, and I hope that you check out more of her work. And to all those out there, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you had a nice time.